I'm going.
So Willem, this isn't the first movie that we've seen about Vincent Van Gogh,
Right.
but it still finds a way to show you something unique and that you've never seen before in other versions. Can you talk a bit about what about this jumped out at you and made you want to tell the story of Vincent Van Gogh?
Well, this project is very particular because I knew Julian. I've known him for many years. I've admired, I love him as a painter. I admire him greatly as a filmmaker. He's a friend. I've been in the studio with him. He's done portraits of me. I've known him for a long time. I've done small roles in his films, just as a friend, to be a part of what he was doing. And when he said he was going to make a film about Vincent Van Gogh, or he was thinking about it, I started talking to him about it. And he didn't say immediately, we're going to make this movie. He wasn't sure. He was working with Jean-Claude Carrière on a script, and he wasn't absolutely sure it was a film to make. He didn't know what it was. But with time, we decided that it was going to happen, and then I signed on. But it wasn't traditional at all in the respect that I did it because it was Julian, and it was a painter doing a film about a painter that I thought I knew a lot about, but I really didn't. A painter that I always admired, but not with a real understanding. So truly, the initial attraction was Julian. And that's not odd for me because I'm often attracted to strong directors.
Yeah.
Because I like being their creature. I say it a lot, but I think it really expresses how I feel. They've got to watch and I've got to do. I do for them. And then in the doing for them, I do it for me. And I do it for the audience. And I like that relationship because it's the right measure of serving and submission to an idea that's bigger than you, but at the same time you have a serious stake in it because you have a responsibility to protect someone's vision, and you have the opportunity to go towards someone's vision and have them change your mind or inspire you or teach you something. And that's, anytime that can happen, it's great. It's the thing that keeps you alive.
Well, you mentioned that. I mean, there's such an immediacy to the movie in the way that it's shot, in the way that it's edited, and in the way it's performed too. I mean, you really do feel this kind of symbiosis, if you will, between you and Schnabel
and the cameraman.
Yeah.
And the light. And yeah, it's true. It was an interesting film in the respect that there was a strong script, but it didn't cover everything we shot. So often we'd go to location. Julian would spend a lot of time redressing the set and getting comfortable and asking you questions and helping you, having you also, make the space. He would nest, and then we'd get there, and very quickly, without much preparation, we'd shoot the scene, which usually went very fast because he likes to shoot quick, kind of first thought, best thought, not a lot of coverage. Sometimes we'd be finished and we'd have done the dialogue, had done the scene, the written scene, and then we'd have time to go out and just find places and paint and improvise and just be with nature. And that started to seep in to the other parts and inform them, and that started to create the structure. I mean, on one hand, you had kind of these formal portraits and text, and then on the other hand, you had silence, nature, landscape, and loose, in a very loose way of shooting. And I think Julian would have to answer this, not me, but I think we found that by accident. But when we found it, it felt like a very organic way to do it. I think his collaborator, Louise Kugelberg, very much steered him, encouraged him to get out in nature more. I'm a city guy, but I'm somewhere deeply, I'm a nature boy, so that's easy for me. I love shooting outside. It the nature leads the way. It tells you what to do.
Yeah.
It's the best place to shoot. So I was very happy, and then Julian really got on board. It was a fun shoot. I'm kind of digressing, but you get the idea.
Right,
that
yeah.
it's not a traditional movie in we knew what we had to do and then we executed. We had a lot of good elements, some invented, some taken from the letters. We had the paintings, we had the activity of paintings, we had the real places, we had lots of things to deal with. And then rather than, we did some execution and we did some experimentation. And then they started to kind of dovetail into each other and they kind of became the same thing.
Some of the most riveting moments in the movie are when you are doing the painting. And it's so hard to like show an artist at work sometimes, and
that's why I had to learn how to paint.
well,
and it's not like a cute method thing.
Yeah.
It's not just the key to that. Not a show-off thing of if you're a horse racer you get good at horses. It was the way to let me into his head.
Yeah.
Because that rooted it. I understood some of the things he was talking about in a deeper way because I was experiencing some of those things, not at the same level. Mm-hmm. I'm not comparing myself to Van Gogh, but you understand.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you also had Julian's input because Julian, Van Gogh says, I am my paintings. Well, this movie is Julian.
Yeah.
It's also me, but primarily it is Julian. And so I'm taking all that in and it's working on me. And I'm willing myself to be molded by this experience. And when you have something concrete, new, particularly when you're learning it and you're formally, someone's teaching you, that creates, no matter what kind of egotistical jerk you are, it creates a kind of humility and an openness that opens the door to new impulses. So he gave me a beautiful opportunity, and without getting too sloppy about it, actors always think they're directors, publicly for things, but it's a big gift. He works from a place of deep love, and when you think about his movies, Basquiat, African-American artist, Before Night Falls, a Latino poet, a Latin poet. What's the other one?
Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
A guy that has a disability. He's really talking about a particular person in relationship to society, and it's not just artists or outsiders. He's really trying to reconcile personal vision and personal experience with the society in a way that I really find really valuable.
And relationship to their work as well. I mean, what makes those scenes where you're painting so riveting is that you really do get the sense of how much of a life and death thing this was for him.
Yeah.
To create this art.
Right. And I had a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to make it inauthentic, and you don't want to be a fool and ruin it. So I worked very hard to not be a great painter. That's not the point, but really get behind what he was saying and try to experience that thing of making marks, putting color next to each other, letting the thing happen, really seeing what I see the light, see the dark, paint the light. Mm-hmm. No such thing as a bad mark. Don't think about it. Do it. If you make that, then that'll show you another way to go. All these lessons, very beautiful.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments in the movie where, like there's a scene where he's reading Shakespeare and talking about how he likes Shakespeare because
I like that scene.
Yeah, I mean, and it's great because like when he says, I can't quote the line verbatim, but the lines are mysteries to me, and I like that. And
he says something like, Shakespeare is no, I don't. He basically says I don't understand all of it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
because she asks if it's well written. He says, "Oh yes, very much," but I don't understand everything because Shakespeare is the most mysterious of all writers. Yeah.
And it gives you a kind of a window into why Van Gogh was so underappreciated in his time. Because I mean, there is this, you see people all the time not quite knowing how to react to his work because he was so ahead of his time.
He took a big leap, I think. I mean, I'm no art historian or art critic, but clear, you see what was going on at the time, and then you see this leap, and it's really something.
Yeah. And I mean, you see that too also in the scene with him and Mads Mikkelsen when he's in the sanitarium, and he calls the painting disturbing, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, it's like a painting of rabbits, or
That was quite clear. It was disturbing because it wasn't a good likeness. He couldn't get past the kind of primitive quality of it, and he was judging it totally on that as just a mark of accomplishment of a career, a profession, a professionalism. And if you don't recognize other ways and you hold a standard that's only tied to a good likeness or a certain kind of technique, then yeah, it's going to be disappointing and you're going to be disturbed by it because this guy says he's an artist, but from my criteria, this is not good at all. It puts people in crisis because they think, oh my God, it's not doing what it's supposed to do, because we're so culturally oriented to have stuff function in a way that we totally understand. And art is mysterious that way. And that I like that very much, because that painting doesn't look particularly good to me either. It looks a little amateurish.
Yeah.
But maybe that's my limitation.
Yeah.
But it goes back to, hell, that don't look like no sunflower,
Yeah.
But it's better than a sunflower, and hopefully we can that's not why the movie exists. I mean, I really was struck when someone said, painting is a device just to say how things are. And all this talk about painting, yes, it's about painting, but painting is a vehicle for us to understand the nature of things. And I think he, with his spiritual longing and his relationship to nature and his alienation and his ability to get beyond kind of a dualistic thinking, he was a radical, he was a revolutionary. And you get a taste of that in this. And you start to have a shift and you start to think differently. And he talks about waking people up. The doctor says at one point, do you think people aren't feeling alive? Well, we know they don't feel alive.
Right,
And he has this not egotistical, it seems a really genuine and sincere desire to share this with people because he thinks it'll give them comfort. Because I think it gives him comfort, or at least the act of doing it gives him comfort, because he feels at union with nature and a higher power when he's not thinking, when he's painting, when he's feeling useful. And all those themes are floating around. I mean, they're going to be evocative for some people, more or less. That doesn't matter. I think Julian, knows his material, and he was open and played with it, and had good things to work with. And for me, it was a real pleasure. Some people say, what was hard? Nothing was hard. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was mysterious. It was scary. And I won't even say, whether I think it's good or bad, but it was a wonderful experience, and I think the movie is strong and personal and can mean a great deal to people.
Yeah.
Particularly if they can get past some of the, conventions of not a traditional movie.
Right. I mean, the thing that struck me watching it was that in its filmmaking style, it's really kind of reflective of all that stuff we were talking about, because we're used to movies like that, and movies in general being made in a certain way and shot in a certain way and put together in a certain way. And the movie, and the way that it's constructed, it's almost jarring at first. It puts you off kilter, but the more you kind of open yourself up to it and let yourself in, the more it becomes this, beautiful, reflexive work of art.
I think that a real key is that opening monologue
Yeah.
where he says, I just, want to be one of them. I just want to have, a drink with them and paint and give them a painting and maybe a pretty girl will look at me. It's such a modest but such a sincere desire. And who knows, we're not saying that's Vincent Van Gogh, but that's our Van Gogh, and I think I like it.
Well, it's an extraordinarily beautiful movie and another great performance.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure.